Hey guys, we're going to be making another video now as part of my daily routine, and we're firing up another 20. I have been running especially hot recently. It's funny because this game makes sense sometimes, and other times this game, for lack of a better word, doesn't make sense. But for now, we're riding the positive wave of variance, and we're going to continue with this gravy and try to essentially make it last a bit longer. So we jump into a game right away, and unfortunately I can't access my internet when I'm recording, so we're gonna not shark scope this opponent and just try to decipher what we can from the early stages of the game. So here we go. As always, playing fairly standard, and essentially we're just going to feel out our opponents, and this is a common occurrence in most strategy games where you're facing someone unknown. You play a bit more conservative, a bit more passive, in the sense that you want to see how they're going to be initially reacting, and you don't want to be putting too much money in the pot without seeing what the player's tendencies and what kind of characteristics they showcase. So we did raise with the 9s pre-flop, and we will follow up only because we can represent that board quite easily, and we take down that pot. So he's limping, which is a good sign. And hopefully here we get to showdown. No, he leads out for 60. When he does this, makes me believe, you know what, we're gonna call it. And he does show up with the jack. So he's thinly value betting, like as he should be. But what's important to note is that he didn't bet out his flush draw on either the flop or the turn. So with that said, I'm going to for now pin him to be a bit more passive than the average player. That information, essentially, we paid $60 for, but it's okay. We know we can use that to generate some future dividends in the form of abusing or exploiting that tendency that he has. So here we flop middle pair. Just going to check behind for pot control for now. He leads out for 40, which is a relatively small bet. Makes me believe a lot less that he has an ace here, and believe more that he has perhaps a 7 or a draw. And when that third ace hits, we're essentially holding the nuts here, and he does raise. We have to ask ourselves though, is there any value in raising at this stage in the game? Although it's very unlikely he has quads, we will be raising and trying to get some value out of a 7, because that could be a likely holding. And 100% sure he has the 7. We're gonna look it up, and he did have jack 7. Oh, queen 10 here. Just gonna check behind, and we will lead out this flop. There seems to be a general consensus between all heads-up players that you should be very aware of your mental state in terms of whether or not you're tired, whether or not you're emotional, whether you're sad, happy. It all mixes and comes into play when you're trying to play this game for a living or a part-time living. And one thing that I've noticed is that I tend to play pretty poorly when I'm even just a tiny bit tired. And what compounds on this notion even further is the fact that if I start losing when I'm tired, I'll continue to play, as even up to this point I still do not enjoy losing. And when I start tilting and when I start losing when I'm on a bit of a on a downswing, and coupled with the fact that I might be a bit tired, I essentially force myself to play. And when I force myself to play, I tend to make even worse mistakes than I normally would had I been just playing normal. And part of being a heads-up player is being able to use that off switch that everyone has. Everyone has an off switch. You just have to learn how to access it. And as much as you might want to win back a couple buy-ins in a certain night, uh, perhaps going to sleep and waking up the next day is going to be the better solution, because I don't remember a single time where I've woken up and I didn't feel refreshed. Because I always feel better when I wake up in the morning. Even if I've hurricaned off 10 buy-ins the night before, if I go to sleep, get a good night's rest for about 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours, and wake up, I feel like I'm up. I feel like normal. I want to get back into the game. I feel refreshed, and I feel like I can all the negativity, all the bad thoughts that were in my head the previous night are gone. And so obviously when you're tired and you're playing, uh, when you're exhausted, bad feelings are going to compound on top of each other, and you should just go the extra step and perhaps not play as much when you're tired and just do something else, like read a book or watch a movie. I think I'll start talking about small bits outside of poker theory and outside of heads up in these videos, as it can get a bit kind of bland and repetitive when I'm constantly you know, calling out and commentating on the action at hand. So here we will, though, go ahead and describe what's going on. We got the aces, and he decides to limp. Now, our opponent has been playing fairly weak tight, and actually weak passive. He's actually calling a lot, and he's actually playing a bunch of hands, but at the same time, he is not raising, he's not free betting us, he's playing the exact way we want him to play. And so with the hand right now that we have, he flatted us on the flop immediately. So I'm gonna say he has a king or a 10 here. We bet enough on the turn to essentially price him out, and now we're just gonna put him in. I see no reason why we need to value bet. He's invested almost half of his stack, and well, okay, he folds instantly. Perhaps a value bet of, in hindsight,